What would it be like to be an EdTech founder? Now, if you're not really familiar with what that means, relax. EdTech simply refers to educational technology. We're all good now? Okay. Well, I have this wonderful guest lined up for us today. His name is Ryan Palmbaum, and he runs this company called Dabbl Discovery. In essence, what this company is all about is allowing people to explore new career options in this really engaging manner. Now, Ryan's going to break this all down in greater detail in just a moment. But what I really found interesting about this episode is that, of course, Ryan's built his business around this notion of career exploration. So throughout the conversation, he sprinkles in insights and advice relating to that topic. Now, on the other hand, we're also getting this look at what it's like to run an early stage startup. So we have also these looks at entrepreneurship and tips and insights in that area. So as always though, I do encourage you to check out the full length audio version, and you can do so wherever you access your podcast. Just look for Life as a ... Okay, well, I think it's about time to get into this, so why don't we? Now, in light of the fact that Ryan's business is based around this notion of career discovery and exploration, I thought a nice point into all of this would be allowing Ryan to explain what career means to him. Like, what does that symbolize in his mind? So here's a clip of Ryan breaking that down for us. And towards the end, I also add my 2 cents, seeing that this, podcast and YouTube channel is also built around this notion of careers.
A career really is something that you are good enough at doing, that someone is willing to pay you to live sustainably, and that you love enough to be able to do it for over a third of your life, right? I think that a career is really it's an extension of who you are, and you have to really choose wisely of what you pursue. And yeah, I think there's definitely a life cycle when it comes to the career journey as well. And I think in those early stages, that's where um, the younger people should really test things out and take these sort of calculated career risks. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like that. I like that perspective there. And one of the things that you said, and I think was brought up in the definition as well, is this notion of the life component and how that's attached to it all. Because you're right. When you sink yourself into a certain career, whether it's teaching, whether it's working on nuclear reactors, like your life sort of evolves around that. You interpret the world differently, right? So, that I think that's a really important point. And the second thing that stood out from what you just mentioned was that, this notion of trying out a few, taking these calculated risks and seeing what you like, because you are going to be devoting a third of your life to this. You might as well, take some time and again, find out what is appealing to you and maybe what's not. So yeah, I appreciate those insights there.
Okay, well, as mentioned off the top, I wanted to give Ryan an opportunity to explain what Dabbl Discovery, his company, is all about and what makes it unique, what makes it special. So here's a clip of just that.
So Dabbl is an educational micro-learning video app. We're building essentially the TikTok of education. We help users find and follow different interests, fields of study, career paths, all for free and all in 1 to 3 minute bursts. So I think that expertise comes with experience, and the only people on the platform who have access to post videos are vetted, trusted experts and educators in a variety of different fields. So that the information you're getting is quality. Really, our goal is to make that career discovery and taste test sort of process easy, engaging, and organic, because realistically, it's a really daunting time for people transitioning from not knowing what they want to do with their life to figuring out what they're going to do for the rest of their life. So that's what our whole MO is.
I've got to say, one of my favorite aspects of having this podcast and running it is getting this inside look at days in the life of different professionals, different entrepreneurs. And here is a clip of Ryan kind of opening up the doors and letting us see into his world of what is it like running an early stage startup. So listen in, I think there's a lot of insights to be gleaned from this. All right, check it out.
And I think listeners always find it interesting to hear founders, experience within their business. I mean, certainly this depends on the stage of development, where they're at within the company and, how big the company is itself. But as you just said, I mean, you're in that stage right now of building this business and growing it from probably the ground up. So, what is it like and what are you doing on a day-to-day?
So as an early stage startup founder, I will say
Yeah.
that it's very, very unpredictable day to day. You have to adapt a lot. But I will never ask anyone to do something that I won't do. So I'm very boots on the ground, involved in every aspect of the company, whether that's design, bug. I'm not necessarily a coder myself. I have basic knowledge on code, but helping people find bugs and fix those, recruiting the creators, speaking with parents, students, principals, superintendents, all that kind of stuff. Fundraising is a big part of my job. Really, it's everything that has to do with the company I'm doing at any point in the day. But I also practice what I preach, and I try to help myself as much as I can. I always make time for a workout and at least listening or reading a book for at least 30 minutes a day. So
Nice.
yeah, I mean, I eat well. I don't sleep that well. That is definitely something
There's
that
always something, right? Yeah.
I will say that's the one thing that I sacrifice, I would say, is sleep. But yeah, pretty much 100% of my time is put into benefiting the company.
Yeah, yeah. No, it sounds like it. I mean, from my experience in speaking with a number of different founders on this program, it seems to me that like you're just constantly wearing so many different hats. And, when you're just starting out these companies, like the number of hats that you're wearing is, yeah, well, you can hardly count them all. To be honest, I'm sure like you said, you're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Is there anything that you naturally gravitate towards, like role responsibility wise within the company, things that interest you or come
Yeah,
naturally to you?
I'm naturally just on the marketing business side. Like that's my main role because I studied business in school and all of that, but also really the design side is something that I'm super passionate about because uh, I'm sure I'll say this a lot throughout this podcast, but I grew up in a really creative house, right? So I learned how to paint, how to do graphic design, how to draw. So I was always really interested in design and things like that. So yeah, I would say I'm heavily involved in that process, and so I'd say design and business are really my two biggest areas.
Okay. Conversely, are there areas that you've kind of had to push yourself towards that are of critical importance that you have to do, but a little bit more challenging to you? And
For sure. Yeah, I mean the technical side is definitely the part that I lack because I never learned coding on a really masterful level. Um, but being in the business for about a year now, I really threw myself into the fire and had to learn as much as I could to be able to talk to my developers, understand what was wrong or understand what was right, and move and figure out a plan how to move forward. So really, it's about just throwing yourself in and hoping that you come out alive. So
well
it's
said,
pretty
yeah.
much what I've done. Yeah.
Next up, I've got this other great clip that I'm really excited to share with you. And it was built around this discussion that he and I had on this notion of entrepreneurial mindsets, what it takes to succeed. And there are a few points of reference I really want you to key in on. One of them is this notion of learning. Like, what is Ryan's approach or relationship with learning, and how does that play a role in his success? Another point is asking questions, really critical part of being an entrepreneur. And finally, his relationship with failure. That's another big part of finding success within entrepreneurship. So check out those 3 points and let me know what you think in the comments.
I think for founders or for anyone who's starting something new, it's easy to go towards what you know and what you're comfortable with, right? And a lot of people might avoid the things that they don't want to necessarily do. But when, again, you're in a startup, you have to be concerned with all elements of your business and how you go about navigating the things that you're not as strong in and you're not as confident in, I think really can set you up for success or, the opposite at times. So, like you said, diving into it, trying to figure things out as much as you can so you can communicate with your developers, for example.
Asking questions and not being afraid to be the quote unquote dumbest person in the room. Like people naturally want to help you and want to explain and collaborate. So really it's just not having too much pride to sit there and not understand things, ask questions, clarify. That's been a huge part of my job, and that's part of the reason, or a big part of why I actually am where I am. I love to ask questions, and I love to hear different points of view, and also I don't like rejection, but I get a lot of rejection. So asking questions, the worst thing people can say is no. And just continually learning. Really.
Now, to this point, what's kind of crazy is I haven't even shared one of the most compelling aspects of Ryan and his background, which is the fact that he's lived in over 10 countries and on 3 different continents. Oh, and by the way, he did all of that before the age of 20. How, you ask? Well, he was a professional soccer player. Now, those experiences and that rub-off is real. It affects a lot of different things, the way you interpret the world, the way you approach problems, all of that great stuff. And in the audio podcast, Ryan breaks all of that down for us. However, I do have one clip here that I want to present to you, and it's this notion of reflecting on the past and using those experiences, using that reflection to plot a pathway forward. So check out this clip. I think there's a lot to be gleaned from it.
This notion of reflection on some of your past activities. Like, I think some people they could easily dismiss experiences like that and be like, okay, well, that was a time in my life, and all right, well, that's what it was. But in reflecting on it, like you have done, and the way you're kind of sharing it right now is like you're seeing the value in it and what you can take away from it moving forward based on some of those experiences. And I think that's a key point for not only young people, but for anyone, in general. There's a lot to be learned from our past if you're taking the time to sit back and reflect on it. So I really liked hearing that. Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes is from Steve Jobs. He says that you can't connect the dots moving forward. You can connect the dots looking backward. So you never really know when the dots are going to connect. So just try new things, learn new things, and sort of make yourself as well-rounded as possible, because you just never know what different opportunities are going to arise from all the continuous learning that you do.
In light of this conversation, in light of what Ryan's business stands for, I did want to present one last question to him, which was what advice he would give to people that are trying to evaluate different career options for themselves. So here's a clip of Ryan sharing that insight.
I would say just to never stop learning as much as you can. Do as much research as you can about either the industry that you're pursuing, or if you don't know what you're going to pursue, research everything. I think it'll help you make the most informed decision. The last thing you want to do is just make a snap decision based on, my mom did this, so I'm going to do this, or my dad did this, so I'm going to do this. You want to, you're different than your parents. You're different than everyone that you've met. So really every person has a different kind of path. And it's your own path. So you should really take the time to make sure it's what you want to do. So I would definitely say just learn as much as you can and never stop learning.
All right, well, it's probably about time to wrap up this video. But as always, I do encourage you to go check out the full-length audio version. There's just so much that's contained within that as opposed to these videos. For example, we get these really great looks at what it's like managing our emotions in an early stage startup. We also get looks at how Ryan validated his business model early on, a very critical step when, considering launching a business. Plus, he also shares this really engaging and entertaining story about how his company came to be. So again, you can find this episode wherever you get your podcasts. Just do that search for Life as a ... And as always, I will have another episode coming for you right next week, so don't miss it. We'll see you then.